You know, I've been kind of silly. I just realized I can add up both of my columns here. Oh wait, I didn't write that down. So when you do this, write yours down. Write down your numbers. But I'm going to go ahead and keep adding here. So I left off here, 10, 10, 5. Okay, so 10, 10, 5. Then I've got a 2. Got another 2. Got a 10. Got a 2. And a 10. And a 10. And another 10. Another 10. Another 10. And one more 10. And 2 more 10s. So overall, my respondents speak to 22, and I divide that by 28, and I get 7.9 teenagers per week, right? So I go ahead and write down, overall, my respondents speak to 7.9 teenagers per week. Now, this is kind of, slightly skewed data, but I mean, it's going to serve my purposes. So I'm seeing that I have, the reason I say it's skewed, let me clarify, is because I've given people ranges and I've assumed the upper range. If I were going to be more accurate, I should give them individual numbers, right? I speak to 7 teenagers per week, okay? But I've kind of ballparked it here. This is not super accurate data, but what this tells me is that my respondents are pretty in touch with teenagers, right? They speak to an average of 7.9 per week as a group. Now, obviously, I have some people in here who speak to 1 to 2 teenagers per week, and they might not have solid information for me. But if I'm examining my data set as a whole, okay, you can see here's one of the people who does not know as many teenagers. But if I look at my data set as a whole, I've got pretty relevant respondent group, okay? A pretty relevant respondent group. So that is that. If I go back to my task sheet for more instructions, I'm gonna cross this off because it makes me feel powerful and productive. Now I have to do a percentage calculation of people who identify themselves in particular categories. So if I take a look here, and I go, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually duplicate my page here, clone page, and that's going to just get me all set up. And what I'm going to do is go in here and I'm going to actually clear, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to clear the ink from the page, right? So I've got a new blank page, and even though this is assumed to be the back of a paper, I'm going to go ahead and head it, just because I never know who's going to be tuning in or what. So I have completed, if you look on my first page, I have completed number 3. So I want to get into number 4, and I should have tried to conserve my space a little bit more so that I could get number 4 on here. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and try. So if I skip a line here and I put number 4, I can probably squeeze this in. So I know from the way that my data set is set up here, I need to put adults, teens overall, and have them broken out into percentages based on my categories. So my categories were upper class, middle class, and lower class. So I'm going to say and we don't say low class, we say lower, because they're not low, they're just lower than the middle. It's being politically correct for you. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to write adult, and I'm going to write teen, and I'm going to write overall. and I'm going to abbreviate it because it's getting late and I am tired. So, upper. I want to find out how many of my adults are in the upper class. So, we're going to go over here to my data. I'm going to look and see where my upper class respondents are, low income. All right, well, I happen to know that my respondents didn't give any upper class, so now what I need to do is go ahead and calculate out my teen groups, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to highlight this and I'm going to color this line so that I know. That is awful. I can't even read that. I want to color it so that I can know where my teenagers stop. Okay, well, I'm going through this time because I get a little bit lost. If you were more intelligent than I am, you might color code this whole thing. But let's see here. Number 17, I want to find out how many of my teens identify with low income. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of my teenagers identified with low income. So that's going to be 4 out of 12. So 4 out of 12 is a third, right? Yes, 4 out of 12 is a third. So I want to identify that 33% of my teens identified with middle class. Okay, so 33%, that's a pretty solid percentage. Okay, as in, did I say middle or lower? What was I counting there? Lower, that was lower class. So I want to actually take that and move it down here to lower. Now I know that 0 responded for upper class in all of my categories. So that means 0 here, 0 here, and 0 here. I need to get to know some rich people apparently. So I know that 33% responded with lower. That means 66% of my teenagers who I interviewed for this survey responded that they were in the middle class income bracket. So now I need to figure out my adults. I go over to my data again, and I'm going to go below this red line. I've got low, middle. Let me just count lows. Lows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 low income adults. So out of 16 adults, I had 5 respond. So 5 out of 16 equals 31%. So 31% of my respondents identify themselves as being in the lower income bracket. 31%. So that means that, and you're going to have to let me do a little bit of math here. If I subtract 2, so that means 68% of my, it's actually going to be 69, and over here I have to choose one of these. So 69% of my data. I just noticed that these add up to 99, which is not a complete data set. So I'm going to go ahead and add on to my lower income, because to me, I feel like most of my teenagers are probably actually in the lower income. So I'm going to say 34% of my teens responded with low income. Now, if I had been smart and I had written down, like I did right here, the actual physical number of students who responded and adults who responded to this, I would have a lot easier time for this next section. But I didn't do that. I decided that I was just going to calculate them out, and so that's why I am going to have to go back to my data set and count again. So how many of my respondents indicated lower class? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,